Okay, we are live. Hi everybody, today we have a knowledge transfer for role strategy plugin. It's one of the most popular plugins in Jenkins, managing authorization for various use cases. And since we have a number of newcomer contributors, maintainers, and also students who are interested in Google Summer project ideas, we decided that it's better to have a knowledge transfer earlier than it usually happens. In Google Summer of Code, we usually have knowledge transfers during the community bonding period. But if you're interested to get information for another project, you're more than welcome to just reach out to potential mentors and ask for more information. So that's the approach. Today, we'll just review the architecture of Role Strategy plugin, how it operates, and how to start contributing to this plugin. It's a real-time discussion, so if you have a question, just feel free to interrupt me, and I'll try to answer that. And the main objective here is to just provide you as much information as needed, and if we need a follow-up session, we can definitely do that. So that's the plan. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Do you see my screen? Yeah, just a question. Would somebody be interested to make notes for the session? I mean, if yes, I can just create a Google document for that.
Yeah, I will help you to record it.
Okay, so. What's going on with my network? Okay. Okay, so yeah, let's create a Google Doc. I'll just share it with everybody. Okay, it seems one of the students is unable to join. So Martin, if you could do that, it would be much appreciated. Well, for students, it's better to actually participate in live, especially if they have questions. Yeah, if anybody is watching this as a recording, or if you want to have more information, we have a Role Strategy plugin chat. It's in Gitter. I posted the link to the meeting notes here. So everybody is welcome to just put some comments and add information. Okay, I believe we cannot do much about that. Okay. So if anybody else wants to join, I propose that we use YouTube and chat for questions as a plan B, because yeah, I didn't expect so many people on the call. Otherwise, we would have found other options. So let's proceed with the KT itself. So if you have never seen a Role Strategy plugin before, there is a plugin. Yeah, it has 48,000 installations. So it means that it's installed on around 25% of instances. It's a pretty good number, and actually this is the second most popular authorization management plugin after Mattress authorization. but Mattress authorization was a part of the Jenkins core. You may see that it's installed almost everywhere because it's a detached plugin. We don't know how many actual usages of this configuration, but yeah, this is the second most popular plugin anyway. So what this plugin does? In Jenkins, there are actually authorization and authentication parts. I'll probably just start the instance. So if you have already checked out the code base, maybe an HPI run is a command which allows to run a development instance from POM.xml. I'm just starting it to show how it's actually configured in Jenkins. Okay, Jenkins is fully up and running. Now we can go here. For example, localhost 8080 Jenkins. And yeah, here we get my development instance. It doesn't have so many things configured. But yeah, what I wanted to show you that this plugin actually, yeah, let's start from Jenkins architecture. You may see that I'm running with Alto Jenkins core because it's a baseline for the plugin. So there is a number of security vulnerabilities, etc. But it doesn't matter for the context of this talk. Here, what we need to know that there are security configurations in Jenkins. And here you can configure security realm, which is actually the authentication. So you can set up various sources of authentication. It means that ability to understand who is the user. So it may be internal user database. You can connect LDAP. You can connect Unix, and with other plugins. There are dozens of various ways to authentify users in the system. But then, even if you know that there is a user that this user has logged in, we still need to authorize it. So to understand which permissions user has on the instance and which actions he can execute. And this is managed by authorization. In authorization, there are also many plugins. And currently, I'm using Role Strategy plugin, but you may see that even on my instance, there is a number of various extension point implementations configured. How a Role Strategy plugin looks like from a user perspective, I hope that everybody on this call has already tried that. Here you may see that yeah, there is manage and assign roles page, which is available when you enable it as authorization engine. And what you can do, you can configure multiple roles. For example, project roles and agent roles. Why does it write slaves here? I was sure I fixed that, maybe not. But yeah, what you can do in this plugin, you can actually create multiple roles using regular expressions. So for example, we can say job developer on, let's say, project A developer. We know that there is a folder A in Jenkins, and we say that anything under this folder is accessible by this developer, and we can say that he's able to configure jobs there, delete them, read, of course. Oh, sorry, I'm editing another project. Yeah, we add this role. Here we can, yeah, this is a new feature which was released yesterday. We know that there is no matching projects so far, but we will create some later. And here we can just set some checkboxes. Each checkbox is managing one of Jenkins permissions. Permissions are also extensible in Jenkins, so depending on the plugins you have, you will get different sets of permissions. Anyway, I configured something. It doesn't really matter for this call. I save that. And then once roles are configured, we also can assign roles. So you may see that I have a number of non-existent users here. And actually, I only have user, I believe. So let's see whether we have user account. Likely not. Maybe yes. And here we say that user is actually project A developer. Oh, okay. I hope I have user on the instance. No, I don't. So we can always create our user. Okay, user. Okay. So now we have another user, and you may see that this user has permissions to browse jobs, but he has no permissions to launch anything because admin didn't grant him permissions. Admin. So now as admin, we can say that let's create a folder A. Okay, and in folder A, we can create a job, let's say foo. So I just created an empty configuration. It doesn't really matter for the discussion. So here we may see that it's executed. And now if we log in as user, we should also have permissions to at least access this job. So job A, foo. And here you may see that we now have permissions to delete the project because it's what admin granted. Due to whatever reason, this admin didn't grant permissions to actually run the jobs, but yeah, it's how I configured that. It doesn't really matter in this case. So this is what the plugin does. Actually, you can just configure roles, and this plugin is pretty scalable in terms of how many roles you can configure, how you can configure them. It's not that scalable in terms of performance and in terms of web UIs, and it's one of the GSOC project ideas to improve user experience of these pages. But yeah, what we're really interested to know today is how it's organized internally. And before we proceed to that, are there any questions? Okay. Questions? Anybody? Okay. No questions, so then yeah, I'll probably just proceed. Let's take a look at the architecture. The entire code base is located in GitHub, as in for almost any other Jenkins plugin, there is a role strategy plugin. And yeah, actually, it's the common structure of Jenkins plugin. It's a Maven project which uses Jenkins plugin POM, and yeah, the most of configuration is defined there. So in the plugin POM, you only declare some dependencies, for example, on other plugins, and also on some test tools which are not included in the base package. So that's it, and the rest is managed by parent POM. And then if you're familiar with Maven projects, it's a common Maven structure. And what we need to know here that there are Java classes, there are resources which implement user web UIs, and there is also web app, because web app is an old way to manage resources. In newest plugins, you will unlikely see web app. But here there are some contents here, also new contents. So for example, CSS files allocated here, also JavaScript components. This is the UI content. But the rest and the most interesting part for us today is Java code base. And it's easier to show this Java code base actually is in IDE, because due to historical reasons, the code is scattered across multiple namespaces or packages. What happened originally, this project has started by contributors from Michelin. So they created a base architecture for the plugin. They created this class, which is ahead of the plugin. We will talk about it later. Then this plugin was created in 2008. Then in 2011, I've taken ownership of this plugin. I was working for my previous company. We were using our own company package. So you may see that there is a number of classes here as well. And finally, now there is a recommendation to actually use Org Jenkins CI plugins role strategy package for new development. So if you create new features, it's better to put them here. It may seem to be a bit complex, but that's how it's implemented now. But for the starters, we still need to begin from this class because it's the main Jenkins extension point. If you scroll here, you may see that there is a role-based authorization strategy, which extends authorization strategy. Authorization strategy is an extension point in Jenkins code, which effectively defines UIs. So if we go back to manage security configuration, this is actually it. So authorization, this drop-down is a list of extension points implementing authorization strategy. And there is actually other implementations. So we can go, for example, Jenkins extension points. I usually forget what is the location of this page, but yeah, there is extension points defined in Jenkins code. You may see that there is a pretty long list of extension points, but one of the first ones is authorization strategy. And here you may see that there is a number of implementations available in open source, 3 implementations in Jenkins code, then there is GitHub authorization, GitLab, Mattress authorization, and also role strategy. There are more implementations available, but yeah, today we are talking only about these ones. And here's our plugin. So yeah, it's one of implementations. It is organized as a classic Jenkins extension point. So if you have already seen plugin developer guidelines and recordings which describe how Jenkins is developed, it's one of the classic implementations, but yeah, this implementation is a bit old. So the code was created yeah, in 2008 or later. But yeah, you may still see the descriptor. So the descriptor is content holder for all UI implementation for static methods. And yeah, when we talk about extension point with UI, it includes a part which is a base class and the descriptor. And yeah, as I said, this is a bit old style, and if you develop new plugins, there may be better ways to do data binding or whatever. So here, for example, when we configure the project, there is a method called new instance. It's currently located in the descriptor. In new implementations, it would be just a data-bound constructor or something like that. But yeah, here you may see that there is a bunch of code here because we manually process form data in order to retrieve entities and then to submit them. And there is same logic for reading data for the disk from the disk. So yeah, everything is implemented manually. There are some advantages of that, but yeah, there is also a lot of disadvantages. For example, there is ongoing project to implement configuration as code support. But yeah, it's not there yet. Okay, do you still follow me? I assume yes. So if you have any questions, just stop me at any point, because I may be jumping from one topic to another, and yeah, the code may be quite complicated, especially if you didn't take a look at it before the meeting. So please feel free to interrupt me. Okay, back to the main class. So yeah, main class includes a lot of the stuff. For configuration as code compatibility, likely there will be serious refactoring applied here. But as an extension point is relatively simple. What we need to implement, let's take a look. So there is authorization strategy. We can click here, and we actually land in Java doc for this extension point. And you may see that there is a number of methods which are abstract, and these methods get ACL for something. And ACL is just a common permission management entity in Jenkins, and you can retrieve ACL objects for jobs, for computers, for nodes, for users, views, etc. And this thing is actually used to retrieve permissions. So when you navigate through UI, for example, let's go here. You may see that there is a number of controls here. Just to access this web interface, you need a Jenkins read permission, and then to manage Jenkins, you need a Jenkins administer permission. So to manage credentials, yeah, you likely do not need anything. For jobs, in order to see the job, you need for this interface, you need job discover and job read permissions. In order to launch the job, you also need job build permission. So every time you open a Jenkins web interface, there is a number of permission checks being performed. Each time you reload this page, each time you access particular components, for example, we can go to test. Here there is more buttons, there is build, then there is delete project is a permission to delete project. If we have a build history for builds, you can also delete things. You can mark them as skip forever, and all of that is managed by permissions. And there is also move button. So move button comes from folders plugin. But yeah, even if Role Strategy doesn't have direct integration with folders, since the plugin and Role Strategy use common APIs, you still can manage permissions for that. So everything is managed, everything has a lot of permission checks, and all of that passes through this class. So if you want to get a permission list for computer, we get this ACL, for jobs, this UCL, etc., etc. In the plugin, as we've seen in the web interface, there are 3 types of permissions right now. Let's take a look. Manage and assign nodes, manage roles. So here, global roles, project roles, and slave roles, which effectively means agent roles or node roles. What it means, we manage data only for 3 entities. For example, there is no view permission management. There was a pull request, but it has never been completed. There is also no user-specific permission management. Probably doesn't matter, but it could be done in this plugin. But yeah, we have 3 entities. These 3 entities, if we go back to the code, they're actually visible right here. So there is a global project slave, which are string values. There is also enumeration in another package, role type, which actually does the same, but yeah, as an enumeration, which improves the performance of some APIs. But yeah, still the main class, due to compatibility reasons, mostly uses strings to access the data. And what is this data is? Actually, it's what displayed in web UIs. So you have role maps for each type, a global project slave, we have a role map, which is stored in the container. It's persisted on the disk. And each time the plugin needs to provide ACL for permissions, it goes through the methods. For example, if we want to get a permission for the project, for example, our test job, you may see that actually we request ACL for abstract item. It's here. And for abstract item, it includes not only job, but various components. Actually, it's not widely used in Jenkins right now. Here you can retrieve ACL. And this method actually goes here. This is a default role map implementation. So it takes which role map to take, which item name to retrieve, and then it receives all the information. So how this role map is organized? There were some changes in the recent release, but effectively for each role map, since we have global permissions and we have local permissions, what we do here is that there is also a way to inherit data. So for example, inheriting ACL, what it does, it actually combines root ACL and also role-specific ACL. So it means that if you request permission for a project, so I clicked some bits here and some bits here, and our user, if we identify them, what he will get. If he accesses a project, he gets permissions here and gets permission here, always if he belongs to this group. So it's combined at this level. But yeah, in any case, we try to build this ACL, and actually here we define on the we rely on the role map. Role map is a relatively simple entity which it just implements role map. So for each role name, you have there is a granted roles container. So for each role, you have a set of authentications or seeds which are actually associated with this role, and this map is stored here. Effectively, it's a combination of multiple entities. So role is what you configure here. So for example, role admin, it has some permissions. And the role entity is located here as well, but yeah, you may see that it has name, it has pattern, it has some description, which is not publicly used in web UI right now. And there is also a set of permissions. Then we map it to the container here. So set of strings. Effectively, this set of strings is assignments we have in another control. Okay, manage and assign roles. Assign roles. Yeah, so you may see that, yeah, I should have created a better configuration for the demo today. I didn't prepare to that, but yeah, whatever. We are taking a look at the architecture. So here, this is set of seeds. It may be either users. So for example, here we have a user, a user admin. We have also anonymous. We could add authenticated. So these are also seeds defined in Jenkins directly. And if our authentication engine supports groups, then we can also add the groups here. For example, if you use LDAP or if you use GitHub as an authentication engine, you can manage groups, and the plugin also supports that. Because in Jenkins architecture, each group will be a set of seeds which you can manage via these assignments. So that's how it works. And yeah, they are stored here. And you may see that there is also a cache because yeah, the plugin needs to provide good performance. And what it means that we need some caching. So here we use standard caching implementation, and do not recall which one. Yeah, it's cache builder from Guava, if I recall correctly. And yeah, here we just use this default construction cache. So when we access roles, etc., it's been fetched relatively quickly, but yeah, you may see that cache has some expiration time. And it means that during the break-in modifications, the cache also needs to be flushed, which is a kind of security concern for the plugin. Because if you have cache, you are responsible to properly manage its validation to keep your plugin secure. Okay, what is the main method? If we go back to role-based authorization strategy, you may see that we operate with ACLs here. So what is ACL in Jenkins? Let's take a look at that finally. So ACL is actually an abstract class. This abstract class, yeah, I need to download sources. Yeah, I didn't have sources for this version in my Maven repository, but yeah, let's just go to Jenkins Java doc. Yeah, Jenkins project posts Java doc for all components. So here you may see that there is our security entity. Actually, it just controls access to the data, and here you may see a number of methods. And the only method which is abstract is this method has permission. It means that whatever ACL entity we produce, it should be able to answer whether this ACL has permission for particular authentication. So authentication, it may be, for example, my current user or Jenkins admin. Permission, it may be, for example, job build or job execute or whatever. And this particular permission entity should be able to answer these two questions. So ACL is being retrieved for particular item, and it means that if here, for example, we have get ACL which retrieves data for the project, it means that we if there are different permission configurations, we should return different ACL objects here. And that's why actually the plugin creates ACLs each time on its own, especially when it inherits the data. So here you may see that, yeah, we create a new ACL on each request, which is definitely not good from the performance side, and it would be one of the potential topics for performance polishing. But yeah, that's how the plugin works now. And you may see that actually here it just combines permission from child, and then if child has no permission, it takes permission from parent. What it means that child for us, it's always root ACL. So if you take here, he's a child, if I recall correctly. Or maybe not. Let's take a look. No, it's parent. So what it means here that firstly we consult with child ACL, and it means that we consult with role permissions. Yeah, just a second. It's here. So firstly we consult with project permissions, so then we consult with global roles, and yeah, if it doesn't work, then we just return false. So this is the default behavior. It's done because this one may be non-conclusive because we cannot return permissions, but sometimes it may be better to even invert this logic, which could be also a potential performance improvement. Anyway, this is how it works. So let's just repeat that. So when we need ACL, we provide ACL for particular objects. Jenkins requests that, and then it uses this ACL for performance checks. Then here, ACL is retrieved. Yeah, you may see that there is a query here, but effectively what it does, it queries role map for item names, and then yeah, it gets ACL which would operate with this role map and which would also combine with root ACL. So effectively, we merge all this permission graph for particular fetch. So item name, for example, for job or for agent, we built this map and then return this ACL as a result. And Jenkins will use this ACL as many times as it wishes to render the web UI. That's how it works. It's not well, it works. Obviously, there is a lot of performance improvements can be done there, but on the plugins, actually, our main objective is to build this object in a quick way. So here there was some enhancement in the last release, and thanks a lot for that. So here you may see that we actually go through all roles and verify that our regular expression patterns are matching. And after that, we do these permission checks. Obviously, not for all permissions we needed at all. So some preemptive caching would be also helpful. But yeah, finally, we just produce a map of whatever roles and permissions accessible for this particular user and for this particular object. And it's returned back to RCL, which will fetch that. And yeah. Actually, this is how it works. So yeah, it's just one method which goes, verifies all patterns. It will build us a role map, and then role map. Yeah. Here we can see that there is also ACL constructor here. Yeah, get ACL. Effectively, for role map, it just creates ACL implementation, which takes controlled item. We will be verifying and role type, because we need it for some permission checks and logging. And yeah, pretty much that's it. So it's a big map with some object conversion, but each time we need to fetch permissions, we just go through all this logic, build map, and then for this map, we determine which permission actually granted to the user. This is how permission check logic works. And if you don't have questions now, then probably I'll have questions to you.
I have a question.
Okay.
What exactly is a root ACL and how does it differ from a normal ACL?
Okay. So root ACL, yeah, let's take a look. Root ACL is effectively ACL for global. What is specific here? Global ACL has no regular expressions, so it relies only on assignments. It will never check patterns, so it operates much faster than project roles. But here, here it's just role assignments. So if you admin everywhere. If you're authenticated everywhere. And we append this configuration to project roles when we produce the final ACL. So these global roles will be used as addition to what project-specific roles or agent-specific roles you have configured in these configurations. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So if you have, yeah.
I have a question too.
Yeah.
Can you please explain those three types of roles, global, slave, and another one in a bit more detail?
Okay. So global roles is this configuration. Actually, it's global roles. It applies everywhere across Jenkins instance. And here you may see that you actually can manage all permission groups. So there are permission groups for credentials, for agents, for jobs. Here you can configure everything and it will apply globally. So for example, here administrator has actually Jenkins administer permission. All other checkboxes are not really required in this configuration because this permission in the current setup gives you all permissions across the Jenkins instance. And then if I assign this permission in assign roles, so here you may see that user admin is actually assigned to role admin. And it means that I'll get these global roles everywhere. So everywhere across Jenkins, I get admin permission. This is the first role. And the two other ones is project and slave. So project, well, it uses obsolete terminology. But yeah, what it really means is that project roles is any kind of item within the system. So for example, folder, job, and anything else you can actually create from here. So new item, you may see that there are multiple project types. Everything is controlled by this permission. Moreover, builds are also controlled by this role. So for example, if we take test, you may see that there is a build. And Jenkins technically allows to configure different permissions for different builds. It's supported by its architecture. It's not supported by the role strategy plugin, but still all permissions you define actually come from this table. And last but not least is about agents. So currently we don't have agents in Jenkins, but actually we could have one. So for example, there is build executor status. There is only one agent master, but we can create another agent. It's something like that. So yeah, there is also some configuration to be done, but we are not really going to launch this agent. So we can just put something like that and label, for example, Linux, even though I run with macOS. Okay, let's say it's macOS to be fair. Okay, so this is an agent. And what we can do, we can configure different permissions for master and agent. And yeah, let's take a look at these permissions. Manage and assign roles, manage roles. So here you may see that we have whatever thing. So here, I thought it says here, but okay. So let's say agent team A, and we say that my agent, It's a regular expression pattern, but the name is a valid regular expression name. And here we have that also, let's say, team B. So effectively here we created two teams for my agent, and we can say that for team A, for example, can configure agents, can connect agents, can delete, disconnect, build, whatever. So this is management for owners. But for team B, we can say that the user can only build on the agent. What it actually means, I want to talk about it a bit later because it's a complicated topic. But in Jenkins, there is also queue authentication. So it's not only about web UI. When you launch a build, for example, if you click here, you also run some execution on the queue. And this execution can actually land on a master, on an agent. And it's possible to protect agents. So for example, by this permission, if I have authorized project plugin installed, I can say that only team B can execute builds on a particular agent. It requires some configuration, but it's possible. And the demo I was showing, it's a demo Jenkins configuration as code. Actually, it does that. So if you take a look at plugins.txt, there is a plugin called authorized project. It's here. So effectively, queue security is configured here, and this is an engine how we do that. So the role strategy plugin allows managing that, and it's just one of the ways. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before we proceed?
Hi.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Oleg, this is Arnab. So I wanted to ask, will we have such KTs and deep dive sessions for all the other project ideas as well?
Well, I believe I answered this question in the beginning, but it depends on the projects. So as mentors or as students, students are welcome to request knowledge transfers from mentors. We ask mentors to do it during the community bonding, when the projects are actually selected. But doing it before the project application or during the project application is also a good idea because it gives students some information what to do. So if you're a mentor and if you have some time, if you have an interested student, of course, it would be nice to have a KT.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Okay. So let me just finish the code dive. There are some interesting bits in this plugin. For example, there are some dangerous permission handling logic. It actually has been done due to historical reasons because there are some combinations of permissions which are not actually recommended in Jenkins. I won't be able to show you it in the web UI because we have protection from that. But so currently dangerous permissions are disabled. For example, there was a permission to manage plugins, and it was possible to configure plugin management before without giving all administrative permissions. But effectively, it's almost the same in Jenkins terms, because if you're able to install a plugin, you're able to install any plugin, including a plugin which does some malicious code execution. So at some point in the security team, it was decided to limit number of permissions by default, and there is a dangerous permission engine which actually hides these permissions or prints administrative warnings if they're configured and if they're not advised. So currently it's hidden, so we don't see it in web UI. Another topic you may need to know about is about Mattress. So what Mattress do, actually, they provide some additional integrations. Story behind it that at my previous company, we had some issues with performance of Role Strategy plugin, and we decided to have another engine based on ownership plugin. So ownership plugin is just a separate plugin, but it integrates with Role Strategy and some other plugins, and the security engine is called ownership-based security. So you may see that it includes role-based strategy, also job restrictions plugin, and Authorize project, which I was referencing today. And what it does, instead of configuring multiple roles, actually it configures only 2 roles. Current user is owner, is primary owner, etc. And then you can configure roles not by these matrices. You may see here there is, for example, matrix with assigned roles, but by managing permissions directly as owner. So if you have access to this demo, it's something you can see there. But you're effectively able, as Jenkins administrator, to assign owners to each job or to each folder, and then this owner configurations will grant you some permissions. And on the role strategy side, it was done by Mattress. So you may see that it starts from a special symbol, and then it's considered as a macro in role strategy plugin. So macro roles, they have been handled a bit differently because, when you have macros, it's actually being calculated dynamically. So it's not like a regular expression, it's an invocation of extension point. So here you may see that actually there are 2 kinds of macros. One is role macro extension. So this is what we have here. There is also a user macro extension, but it's not really implemented and it's not really used anywhere. But for macros, what it does, it's a separate extension point which has its own caching. And this macro engine allows to somehow calculate which users match this permission dynamically. So for example, here you may see that, just a second, a macro extension, I believe it should be here. So it checks, it actually has, this method has permission. So you may see it here. And effectively, it means that this macro makes a final decision whether a user has permission or not. It comes at some performance overhead, but on the other hand, you do not need to compare multiple regular expressions each time you fetch the data. So at some point, I implemented it as my solution for performance issues in the plugin. It's not an ideal solution, but it came from advanced user management features. But if you work on the performance plugin, that it's something you need to keep in mind. Okay, I was talking about performance a lot today. Probably we should talk a bit about user experience. Okay, so how it's organized. Jenkins has its own engine. It's based on Jelly. So you may see that web UIs are mostly written in Jelly for this plugin. Jelly is a weird combination of XML, HTML, and Java code. Actually, not even Java, Groovy. But you may see how it works in real. For example, this is an index page which offers you controls to access the data. So effectively, this is a configuration for this page. And there are ways to create macros. There are ways, for example, there is a reusable tag library, and then we have 2 hyperlinks. And there are also tables. For example, in global roles, you may see that there is some magic behind that, and you may also see that there is embedded JavaScript logic, which does something for management of these web UIs. So it's how the current interface is configured in this plugin. It's far from ideal. It would be great to completely rework it, to be honest. So now there is a trend to actually split the management part. So we could have REST APIs, and we could have, for example, JavaScript-based engine, which would interact with this REST API to configure that. So for me, one of the interests in this project would be to actually completely rewrite this layouts and to do something in modern languages. So yeah, you may see that now it's a mix of whatever. Jelly JavaScript doesn't help, but yeah, I mean, it makes the code more complex, especially things like that. So by using an existing web framework, for example, React or something like that, you can just rework these pages and simplify them. So yeah, it would be one of the foundation bits for the user experience project in Role Strategy plugin. Yeah, you may see that there is a number of such pages here, which could be reworked and completely replaced according to your proposal. Okay, so we have some minutes left. Do you have any more questions? Okay, just to understand, so we have two projects. One is about performance, another one is about user experience. Is everybody on the call interested in the performance project, or is somebody interested in the web UIs?
I'm interested in web UI project.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, for web UIs, yeah, I think that the work of this mess would be actually an interesting thing for everybody who uses this plugin, because these configurations, yeah, it's difficult to maintain that, it's difficult to extend that. The UI is really difficult to use when you have hundreds of roles, because there is no pagination there, and yeah, just switching to another interface would help thousands of users of the plugin out of the box. Here is just a sketch, but yeah, imagine these pages if you have 100 rows here, for example. It's just a matrix. There are some things, for example, you may see that there is highlighting, but yeah, obviously it's possible to do much better with modern web UI frameworks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What else do you need to know about this plugin? As I said, development of this plugin is just development of any other Jenkins plugin. So there are guidelines for that. Maybe in HPI run actually does the run. You can call Maven debug in order to run in the debug mode. So you may see that now it exposes a debug port, so you can connect your IDE as a remote debugger and start developing. If you use NetBeans, it's even more easy because there are specific plugins for NetBeans which save time. But yeah, it's like any other plugin. And yeah, once you create something, you can create pull requests. Actually, we already had a lot of pull requests over the last weeks, and you're more than welcome to contribute more. So you may see that we have continuous integration instance configured. So every time you create a pull request, actually the build will be completed, and you will get test results. So for example, there is a pull request from Deepansh, ones related to performance. It has been tested, it has been integrated and already released. That's cool. And yeah, speaking of tests, all tests which we run in the plugin now, they're located in this directory test. And here you may see that there is actually only some plugins. And yeah, obviously it could be improved a lot. So yeah, you may see that there are actually few plugins, few tests in this plugin. And for new functionality, I try to develop a test automation, and yeah, everybody is welcome to contribute more to tests, because now there is almost no web UI test automation. There is a limited functional test automation. So yeah, we can always do more. And regarding test utilities, so right now I do not plan to do a particular knowledge transfer for that. We usually do a dedicated knowledge transfer for test utilities when we get closer to community bonding, so that everybody is able to contribute and listen, because yeah, it's shared between multiple projects. And yeah, if you're interested to know more about tests now, we also have some KTs and demos recorded. So if you need more information, just ping me or any other GSOC mentor, and hopefully they will be able to send you links. If no, just ask our admins. We have a list of links. Okay, that's it from me. Any new questions?
Any newcomer issues so that we can start with?
Sorry? What to start from?
Any newcomer issues for us to start with?
New issues, right? So we have some issues in the project ideas. Project Jenkins.io projects JSOC. So you may see that there are some issues here, and some of them are still not addressed. But yeah, my advice to you would be to actually, if you don't have any issues, to start from here. Firstly, you can, if you already contributed some tickets, you can remove newbie friendly, and you can take a look at particular issues related to performance, or you can just do some exploration. Because yeah, performance in this plugin can be improved a lot. Web UIs could be improved a lot. So maybe at some point, if you don't see any other new issues, you can just find your own ones, diagnose the code base, and propose your own patches. And if needed, I'll do my best to report more newbie-friendly tickets here. So
Okay.
if you need more newbie-friendly tickets, so we start from something like 12, I believe. So all of them are closed, and yeah, we definitely need to think about more. But
Okay.
yeah, so just ping us in chats, and yeah, I've taken an action item. I'll try to create more on this weekend.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions?
I had a question somewhat unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
In the code, there's some methods have been annotated with no external use class,
Mm-hmm.
and so just let me get the Java doc for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the purpose of this method is to actually prevent usages of APIs in other plugins. So it's a Jenkins internal mechanism which allows to restrict public methods to particular plugins, because there is no other means available in Java to permit a method from one package in another package without permitting it for other plugins, at least until you use Java 11 and models or other similar solutions. So restricted is our internally tooling for that.
Yeah, so basically when I wrote some Groovy scripts, I used a method which was annotated with the no external use, but it was working. So I don't know if that's a bug or if that's a feature.
Well, it's neither feature nor bug. Groovy actually does not recognize Java annotations, because Groovy is still able to access many things, including private methods, private fields, like reflection in Java.
Yep.
So it's not a bug. It's how it works. And yeah, when you access private method from Groovy scripts, it usually means that the API of the plugin is not ideal and could be improved if you need that. We do not restrict that. So the purpose of annotations is to prevent plugins, at least from including the code directly in the code base. But yeah, it's limited.
Oh, okay.
So Groovy calls are not protected.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. If there is no more questions, I propose to close down the recording for now, because yeah, I have another meeting starting. But yeah, if there are any questions, we can proceed in the chat. And if needed, I'm happy to organize another session. For example, if somebody wants to talk about web UI specifically, how it's organized, well, most probably you know more about web UIs than me, but I'll do my best to help. Okay. Any questions? Yes, I hope that this KT gives you some information about how the plugin is organized. Yeah, and yeah, I'll make sure to post this session to link it to previous KTs about plugin structure in general, about plugin development, and I hope that it will help you with some contributions. And yeah, if needed, just reach out to us in the Gitter chat, and we will provide all the necessary assistance. Okay, thanks everybody. I'll
Thank you.
stop the broadcast then.